Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic week. Well, I thought I'd better do a quick video on if you're planning on traveling to Japan, especially after seeing some of my videos on Japan and how much fun I've been having out here. I thought I'd bring out, well, some things that you should expect that might be different than what you expect when traveling to Japan. So the first thing is when you're traveling to Japan, you can go to Japan if you're living in North America with just your passport. Unlike China and other countries in the Asian area, you do not need to have a visa. You can travel with just your passport. Now, when you get to Japan, if you're coming in by cruise ship, for instance, you will need to go through a scanning or a document check, if you will, that they will check over your passport, make sure it's you, they will take your fingerprints, they will make you fill out a disembarkation card, and you'll do that just before your first stop in Japan. After that, your next ports of call, you don't have to go through that. It's a one-time thing to go through everybody on the cruise ship. Not only that, if you're not getting off the cruise ship, you still have to go through this process because you're in Japanese waters and they will want to double check and make sure everybody who's here is supposed to be here and that nothing sneaky is going on. Number 3, not all the ports of call will be these beautiful coastline cities and exotic locales. Some of them are a very industrial port. However, the cities are very beautiful and there's lots to do in these cities, but the port just looks like a big industrial complex. And then you take a shuttle into the city or into areas of interest. So there's some, beautiful volcano areas and wilderness areas and parks and cherry blossom parks and river cruise areas all over the places in some of these cities, but it's not right at the port. And a lot of people are, this isn't what I was expecting. They almost expect Hawaii when you're cruising into some ports. And these ports are, this is how they make their living. They're very, they're a very isolated island, so they have to have a lot of shipping in and a shipping out for goods, and these are very industrial ports, so keep that in mind as well. If you're going to travel around on the subways go everywhere, the trains go everywhere, but they are super crowded. They actually hire people to help push people into the subways, into the actual trains, and because they're so crowded, they want to keep people moving. There's no lingering when it comes to getting on and off of these trains and the ferries. You are literally escorted in and pushed in, and they will actually have people pushing you in so they can close the doors. So if you're going to travel by subway or train, be prepared that there is a high chance that you're going to become very friendly with the people around you. That's how crowded some of these can be at particular times of day. One of the fantastic things I found, and it is such a huge change in my appearance of my own culture in Canada and United States. In Canada, we are known as being the nice guys, right? Canada's a home of nice people and nice and everything. Well, the Japanese put us to shame. They really do. They are so polite and so thankful in their appreciation for everybody doing their tours, and they will attend to your every single need at a drop of a notice. We were heading to a resort, a tower that overlooked one of the cities. And in front of us was 4 buses. And the lady who's doing our tour said, oh, this is also an area where a lot of school children go on field trips, and that's what those 4 buses were in front of us. She says they're all from one school and they're going, and they got into the tower before we got there. And the first thought in my head is, oh great, there's going to be a bunch of screaming teenagers or elementary school kids running around, and what a shock I got when we get off the bus. And as we're getting off the bus, all these, they couldn't have been more than between the ages of 9 and 11. And they saw all of us North Americans getting off the bus. They all stopped in line of what they were doing as they were getting ready to go into their tours, looked at us, smiled and started waving to us. Hello, hi, welcome, hello. These are just school kids. They're not paid. They didn't expect us to be there. They just saw us and started waving us and wishing hello. And they were so nice and polite all through the tower. They were making room for us to get pictures. And I was flabbergasted at how well, super behaved the Japanese school kids were, and how attentive the parents were to the kids as well, like that were escorting them. And they were, I know we do the same for our kids and everything, but it just seemed overdone more here. Not to the point where it was a bad thing, but a super good thing. And every single person was super, super polite. I never had an issue anywhere I went, anywhere I walked. Every single person is smiling and helpful as much as I could see. And while I'm on that, anywhere that there's a large populace of North Americans visiting, like the shopping districts or the hotels and the restaurants, always was able to find somebody who spoke perfect English. So far, so good. Like much better than my attempt at Japanese. I learned a few words like "Good afternoon" is konnichiwa, and so you do learn some words so you can communicate and say hi and be polite. But they knew a lot of English, and their English was very, very good. I was afraid maybe the accents, we might not be able to understand each other, but there's been no issues so far. Super, super nice people. It just makes me want to visit here over and over again because it is so polite of an area, and I can't stress that enough. So if you're worried about rudeness or anything like that, just discount that right away because it's been completely the opposite. It's as if they all worked for me. That's how super polite every single person, including kids. It's like they all worked for me and they relied on me for their salvation. That's how attentive and polite everybody is. Did I say this enough? Did I stress this enough? How nice everyone was. And let's go on to something that is a contentious item in a lot of places, the old tipping. So if anyone who goes to the Caribbean and you go out, say, on a boat ride, and you're, speedboat ride, you're going around places, you're going all your locations and everything, and then on your way back, you've had a great time, and all of a sudden the boat stops. And you can see your boat and the dock off in the distance, but you're stopped now, and there's the boat operator and their assistant, and they're talking to you, hoping you had a good time. Okay, this is great. And then they start mentioning, if you had a good time, we appreciate the tips, and that's for every single kind of excursion. Your bus driver, you're the person going around with you on the tour, who's your guide. Any place you go that so if you go to on a certain excursion that say goes on a boat ride and then goes on a bus ride and then goes on a walking trail, where you're seen to be tipping 3 different times, and then you get back on the bus and you tip the bus driver and the guide again, you could be tipping 5 times on the same shore excursion. In Japan, there's no tipping. The only time you would ever consider tipping is if you're on a private tour, where it's just like you, your wife, and your kids, and a private driver that you've hired. Only then would they even consider accepting a tip. The guides, the bus drivers, anybody out there, there is no tipping. It's considered rude. It's like you're insulting them that they cannot afford to live without your good graces. Their job is so menial that you need to give them more money. No. They enjoy their jobs. It's a privilege to do what they're doing, and they don't want to tip. That's their outlook. I know in North America we base salaries sometimes around tips. waitresses and things like that. We don't pay them this amount of money because we expect people to tip them. And that's just the way we've grown up and the way we've gone it with Western society. In Japan, there is no tipping. They look at it as a completely other way around. Where in North America, it's looked at as if you do really well, here's a reward for being so good. In Japan, if they do really well and we try and tip them, it's an insult to them that they didn't do their job properly, kind of thing. So that's the way it looks. And a lot of people were asking me and coming up to me on the buses, are we supposed to tip? Do we tip? No, you don't tip. They don't have any tip jars on the buses like you can see in the Caribbean. There's no little basket there saying tips. You won't see that anywhere around. There's no coffee shops or tip jars on the counters at all the souvenir shops or anything. It's a non-existent thing. So Japan is just a lot of difference. And I will be honest, when I think of Japan, I think of the blossoms, the cherry blossoms, and I think of the culture and samurais and the old fortresses and things like that. What I don't think of is skiing and snow. And Japan has the 4 seasons like we would have in, say, Canada or northern United States and along the East Coast, where you would get your summer, winter, fall, spring, and there is some of the best skiing in Japan. They have huge mountains and lots of areas to go skiing, and there's lots of snow as well. In fact, they're trying to get the next Winter Olympics, I believe in 2023 they were going to try, sometime around that to get it. The mayor's having a little bit of a hassle with some of the people because it's so expensive, and he will go with the way the city feels as opposed to the way he feels. So, but in his mind, he would like to bring the Winter Olympics back to Japan. But when you think of Japan, that's not the first thing that comes to my mind. But don't be afraid to travel to Japan in the wintertime, because some of the ski resorts and some of the views from the mountaintops that run all year round, the gondolas and things like that, would be spectacular in the wintertime. I can just imagine the whole valley covered with white and the lights from the ports and stuff like that would look absolutely beautiful. So there is 4 seasons, and keep that in mind when you're traveling. And if you want to see cherry blossoms, you gotta come in roughly April to get there. End of April, beginning of May to see the cherry blossoms. That's around the only time that they are in bloom. So, and keep this in mind, that is some of the most toured time of year in Japan, is when those cherry blossoms are going. There's festivals going on all the time, and even the people of Japan travel to where there are a lot of those cherry trees so they can see it themselves. As they say here in Japan, that they're kind of cherry blossom fanatics, and so they will travel themselves to see this every year. So if you want less crowds, don't come during cherry blossom season. But if that's one of the things you want to see, and they truly are beautiful. I saw some pictures of them in full bloom, and it really was something to see. And I'm a little disappointed I didn't get to see it, but I'm enjoying the fact that it's not overcrowded when I'm here right now. So 4 seasons in Japan, super polite people, and the money exchange has been really easy. The vending machines here are amazing. The bathrooms, have to say the bathrooms should come with instructions, because I went into one the other day. It had like 42 buttons on it. And trust me, if you press the wrong button, you might end up falling in love with your toilet. Because it does everything. But not only that, there are restaurants and temples and things like that they will require you to take off your shoes. So be mindful of that if you're going on shore excursions and things. Some places will ask you to it's mandatory you take off your shoes. And if you're heading into the bathroom area while you're going in your sock feet or your bare feet, don't worry. They have slippers in the bathroom that guests put on. Go in, go to the washroom, come back out, and they have an attendant going in every so often and cleaning them all off. So that was something that I didn't expect. I didn't remember that, but I remembered it from before, but it didn't refresh my memory till I went there. I remember the toilets. I didn't remember that. So just another little quirk that is different here. A lot of the restaurants, especially the high-end restaurants, may ask you to remove your shoes. So if you're walking around in sandals and socks, keep that in mind. At one point, you may be in your bare feet if you're not wearing socks. So maybe throw a couple socks in your backpack with you when you're heading out. Well, those are just some things that I found interesting when I got here in Japan. Quick recap, beautiful country, super polite, super nice people, and stunning views from almost every place I've been to. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm going to show you a video a little bit later about some school kids who came to our ship to send us off, and they only do it 3 times a year, and they were so excited to be here, and they weren't doing anything but coming to the ship and dancing for us and singing for us to some songs and waving goodbye to us as we checked out of the port. And it just kind of made the whole day perfect. It was so amazing to see the excitement in these kids' faces and how much joy and happiness they were having. And I wish more places would do some stuff like that, and I wish more young people felt as excited to do stuff like that that these kids seem to do back where I live. So I'll show you that video coming up when I can edit it properly. So there you go. Japan, so far loving it. Few tips. Get your travel documents in order. Make sure you're coming with the right things. Expect to have long lines if you're coming in the springtime with the cherry blossoms, but expect super polite people. Don't tip. Don't be rude, because they are going to be the super most polite people you've ever met. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world? Hit that subscribe button. Till next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.